Bong Joon Ho's new film, Mickey 17, has been released after being delayed for almost a year. But is it worth the wait, or is this the case of a satire misfire? Here's my quick review for Mickey 17. Robert Pattinson is Mickey Barnes, who's a down-on-his-luck loser here on Earth. He has huge debts to a loan shark, and he wants to escape into space. But he has no discernible talents or skills, so he signs up to be an expendable. These are humans who are kind of like lab rats. They can be printed out over and over and over again so that they can do lethal missions or experiments. His job is to die over and over and over again in order to advance humanity. He develops a relationship on the mission with a security officer named Nasha, played by Naomi Ackie, and she seems like the only person who has any sort of emotional investment in him constantly dying all the time. During one of his many dangerous missions, Mickey number 17 is left for dead, and they just print out another version of him to start over. But Mickey 17 actually survives, so now Mickey 17 and Mickey 18 coexist. And in this world, that could result in the permanent deletion of both of them. Okay, first off, I am really loving Robert Pattinson's career trajectory of going from being like a teen heartthrob to this weird voice guy, eccentric actor that stars in auteur cinema. He's great in this movie, and I really like that he can make a distinction between Mickey 17 and Mickey 18, where they feel different enough that we immediately know which one is which, but not so different that they feel like completely different people, because they are essentially the same person. I also really like Naomi Ackie in this movie. I wish there was more for her to do, because the scenes with her and the Mickeys actually give a lot of the emotional heart to this that I think we needed more of. Beyond that, I have to say I was pretty disappointed in this movie. This movie struggles for me because I think that there are places where the tones in different scenes just crash into each other instead of flowing together. And I think that that is most exemplified in the characters played by Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette. These are two fantastic actors who I love, and I just cannot stand their characters in this movie. Mark Ruffalo is doing a very obvious Trump character, and I think the problem is that it's just not saying anything new. It's like, yep, there's this guy. He's evil and he sucks. Kind of the same with Toni Collette. Her character is this sort of elitist woman who's really obsessed with sauce, and I just don't really think that's adding much to the political message of this movie. It's nothing that we haven't heard 1,000 times already, and it's not even clever, it's not fresh. It just kind of annoyed me every time the story cut back to them. In fairness to this movie, it was supposed to come out a year ago, so maybe I would have been more receptive to it back then, but right now I feel like we are just constantly bombarded with the most horrible news, and having a Trump-like character just thrown in our face in here was just not what I wanted from this movie. I love blunt and obvious satire, but I still think it needs to say something, and I felt like this was very one-note, surface level, like, hey, these people are bad. Yep, we get it. We know. I think the kind of disjointed feel between the Mickey storyline and that storyline is kind of an example of how the rest of the movie feels as well. There are like 8 major plot lines in this movie, and it feels spread so thin that you don't really care about any one of them because you don't really have enough time to care about any one of them. There's a whole storyline with Mickey's friend, played by Steven Yeun, who's like always lucky. There's a whole subplot with the science team. There's this whole message about the environment and the native species of this planet that's really interesting, but none of them are really developed enough that it feels like they pay off in any type of way. So the whole movie ends up feeling like a lot of setups, but it doesn't really go anywhere with it. And that can make everything feel so surface level. So I think Mickey 17 has some really good ideas at its core, but I think the execution is so messy that I ended up being so disappointed. I was really looking forward to this one. And as I was watching the movie, I could feel myself trying to be like, well, that was good. You liked that part, huh? So going into this movie, I had friends that had given it like 5 stars and friends that had given it like 1 star. And I was very curious about it, but when I got out, I understood why the reviews were so mixed. So you can read my full review of this movie on Trashwire.com, or you can check out my Letterboxd review for a little bit more detail about what worked and what didn't work for me. But if you saw Mickey 17, I'd love to know in the comments, did this movie hit for you or was it a miss?